Council agenda meeting of February 1st, 2022 to order. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Law by filing the notice in the office of the Township Clerk and by posting the meeting notice on the bulletin board at the municipal building on December 22nd, 2021, where it has remained posted since that date. A legal notice appeared in the Daily Record on December 28th, 2021, and the Newark Star Ledger on December 27th, 2021. Council meetings are videotaped and aired on Cablevision Public Access Channel 21 at 11 a.m. on Sundays and are also available for viewing at www.parsippany.net. Please join me in the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Karifi? Here. Ms. Grignani?
Here.
Mr. Neglia?
Here.
Mr. Musella?
Here.
Mr. DePiero?
Here.
Also in attendance are Mayor James Barbario, Business Administrator Fred Carr, CFO Juan Uribe, Township Attorney Michael Lavery, and Township Clerk Colette Madden. Council President, we have a quorum. You may begin.
Thank you. Upcoming meetings, February 15th, 2022, 7 p.m., regular meeting. 3/1/2022 at 7 p.m., agenda meeting. Presentations and reports. Mayor, you're up first.
Yes, I haven't reported on any COVID activity. So tonight, I'm going to start from Tuesday of last week. On the 25th, we had 42 cases of COVID. On the 26th, 48. On the 27th, 45. And on the 28th, 28. And the 29th, 16. And the 30th, 16. As you can see, the amount of cases of COVID are starting to decrease. And as the state said, and all the CDC say that it will start probably tapering off in mid-February and stuff like that. So that's an update there.
Do you know how many of them were hospitalized?
That I don't know.
That'd be a good.
All right, I'll get that.
So if there are hospitalizations, those are reported. Those are just by the Department of Health. So if somebody's actually in the hospital, we're told. So those are just positives.
Okay. With regards to TNR, trap, neuter, and release, I met with the business administrator, health officer, and the animal control officer. And after, a lot of detailed discussion, one thing we cannot allow to continue to happen, and this is just my opinion, is to have our residents be affected the way they're being affected over in the Intervale area. I'm going to make a recommendation with regards to TNR that we form that committee that was discussed, we form it, we find a way to amend this TNR so it doesn't affect the residents in that area. It's, I think it's 42 to 50 cats in a certain area, and it becomes a health hazard for those residents. And it's something that we can't allow. I just can't allow. I don't understand why it hasn't been tackled already, but I'm willing to take it on. And Council President, if you're willing to start that committee, we can discuss how we can amend it and still have the trap, neuter, and release program here in Parsippany, which I understand. That's not an issue for me, but I do have an issue when they start to invade private property.
Well, trap, neuter, and release is a long-term program. That's not the program that you're talking about. You're talking about creating some different program, and we can discuss that. But TNR is a long-term program.
And I understand that, but what I will say is, as long-term as it is, I know that if I lived in that area, I don't want that long-term project affecting my neighborhood, affecting my property, affecting my children, affecting the fact that they can't go out into their backyards. We have a responsibility for public safety as well. I'm not saying get rid of trap, neuter, and release. That's the last thing I'm trying to say. We have to find another method where we don't put the onus on residents to maintain the trap, neuter, and release, because you see what's happening, they cannot maintain it. And when you can't maintain it, it starts to affect that area, and as I've heard the residents, speaking many times, feces all over the backyard, it becomes a public health, situation in the neighborhood. Now, I don't know whose fault it is. I understand the trap, neuter, and release program, but if you can't maintain it and you can't take care of them, then we have to find another way to take care of it. So I would recommend, and of course, that's up to you, Council President, but form a committee, we discuss it, we find a solution, to the problem.
Okay.
Thank you. And that's it for me tonight.
Okay. Under Township Council, we have presentation by our General Manager at the Knoll, Kevin Bricato. And I think that first row of lights should be turned out. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Brancato. I'm the general manager at the Knoll. I have a couple things to say before I start my slide presentation, which is thankfully going to be brief. When I first had the opportunity to get the job at the Knoll was in pretty desperate straits. I was a member of the advisory committee starting in 2014. In 2018, the township hired a for-profit company to manage the Knoll. The advisory committee started coming to the council because the conditions up there got so bad, membership-wise, we were losing members, the golf course was in terrible shape. Just overall, there were no programs. They didn't have a golf professional. They took over in March, I believe, of 2018. They didn't have a golf professional on site until the end of the season in 2018. And then starting out 2019, it was abysmal. What happened as a result of that was I ended up approaching the mayor with Councilman DePiero's help, and we had a discussion about what do we do? Because that company was contracted to be here until the middle of the 2020 season. Had they been kept, the fact of the matter is we would have really been in desperate trouble at the Knoll. Further into my presentation, you'll see the numbers and what I was talking about. At the time, we had no idea, absolutely no idea, how bad it was at the Knoll. Only after I got in there and started to work on creating procedures and accountability and looking at the finances of the Knoll did we truly realize how bad the situation was. And fortunately, we've been successful, as I'll show you later on, in turning everything around. Recently, there's been 3 articles posted in Tap into Parsippany. Those articles are factually incorrect, and that's what prompted me to ask for the time in front of you, to straighten out the facts and let you know exactly what happened. Part of when I came in was to look at what was going on, look at our sales, look at the accountability. We found out that there were people coming into the pro shop saying, I'm an employee of the town, and wanting a special rate to go play golf. I discovered that was a process that had been in place up there for quite some time. I have no idea how long. I've been a member there since 1993. I was on the advisory committee in 2014. How long members were playing or employees were playing simply by coming in and saying, I'm an employee, I have no idea. So we said, okay, we have to make sure these people are actually employees. We started asking for their ID card. Show me your township ID. And they would say, okay, some of them would say, well, I don't have it, I left it at home. Charge me the non-resident rate. Others would say, I'll go get it out of my car, it's in my car, and then never come back. So we decided that we had to make the employee playing, transparent. We had to be able to track it. We had to know who was playing. We had to know when they were playing. We had to know what they were paying us. The only way I could do that was I had to assign a membership number to the employee category so we could get them into the computer system. And that's quite as simple as it was. It wasn't a free membership. They were already paying. We just wanted to make it accountable. So by establishing that and then putting it into the ordinance, and I did the rate ordinance, and I can tell you, nobody was involved in that decision and trying to codify it and justify it other than myself and Fred Carr. Fred's my boss. When we saw the situation was going on, I called him. We had a conversation about it. We decided we were on the right track. Let's make it above board. Let's make it trackable, and let's get it into the ordinance. So, quite simply, that's all we were trying to do. And there was nobody involved in that except for myself, my staff, and Fred Carr. Now, when I came to the Knoll, one of the things we did was we hired the golf professional. Prior to that, the golf professional was a contractor who was being paid by the town, made all the profit on the pro shop, made all the profit on lessons that were being taught, and we made nothing. All he did for us was quite simply handle outings and make sure tee times got booked. When we came aboard, after the 2 years with Kemper, we hired John McCarthy, who was their golf, ended up being their golf professional. I think he was the third one they had in there. But John has 25 years of experience at private golf clubs. So to get the membership involved and start programs, which we did. We started junior golf. We have junior clinics. We had a junior summer camp. We started the PGA Junior League. We also started an evening 9-hole ladies league at the West. We have an 18-hole ladies league that plays during the daytime. So the programs and the tournaments and, creating our future with the junior golf is a big push. And I think he's done a fine job with that. As far as our staff with the green staff, thankfully, the township invested $2 million in a new sprinkler system up there. Prior to this new sprinkler system, the sprinklers ran right down the center of the fairways. So if you had to irrigate the rough areas, you had to overwater certain parts of the golf course. The new irrigation system we had 360 sprinkler heads on the old system. The new system has 1,600 heads. Every one of those heads is GPSed. None of them ride right down the middle of the fairway. They're staggered all over the golf course so that you can water, like if the rough on the right side of number 18 needs water, we water that spot. You don't have to turn on the whole sprinkler system to water one spot. So the conditions of the course, along with the staff that we hired, we replaced on the green staff 6 people this year. Every single one of them we actually hired 2 of them full-time. We had 6 people that we hire as seasonals. They all have experience at Knickerbocker Country Club or Mount Tabor Country Club for years. And one guy we hired is 30 years experience at a private golf club in Bergen County. So rather than hire some kid to come in and cut the grass, some high school kid who we have to watch, they're screwing around, they don't understand how to maintain a golf course, we hired these people. Our intention is not to, and we did that without increasing the staff. So the staff was 15 people, 16 people, we're still right about 16 people. When Glenn Purcell went into the Knoll, that staff was 29 people. So we're maintaining and actually doing a much better job with the combination of the staff that we hired and the sprinkler system. Our results will show that to you. In 2020, in 2018 and 19, the membership was shrinking. In 2020, halfway through the season, we sold out. And we ended up the season with 118 people on the waiting list. This is for the West course. Today, we have 206 people on the waiting list. As of tonight, before I came here, we have 620 members already paid and signed up for next year. And we're not even halfway through our waiting list. So we'll sell out again this year. And our goal is to get as many of those people in as members as we possibly can. That waiting list is due to the conditions of the golf course and the promise of what we will be offering with food and beverage up there, hopefully soon. So, with that, I'm gonna start. Obviously, that's the Knoll before we started our reconstruction. Those green turrets are now black. All those windows on the corner of the building are gone. We had leaks in the building that went back to flashings that were not properly done for years. We had a mold issue. That's what started the reconstruction up there. And the reason that we did not get building permits when we started was because it was like peeling an onion. You started with a black spot on the wall, and then when you went to fix the black spot on the wall, it was obviously mold. You pulled it apart, we found out how bad the mold was. And you just kept going. At the point in time that it became obvious to us that we should ask for permits, we were told to stand down and don't do it, just finish the job. And that was the old business administrator that told me to do that. I'm not making an excuse, it's just the reality, that's what it was. So, this past year, everybody thinks that the Knoll is a private golf club. Anything but. Both courses, the east and the west, are public golf courses. Last year, we had a combined total of 59,650 rounds. Of that total, 20,600 and some were general public. And that's between golf outings, that's between what we sold to the public on Golf Now. It's also people that would call up and say, do I have a tee time? I'll explain the membership system, but we had 38,000 rounds that were played by members of both the East and the West course. Combined, between the two courses, we had over 1,500 members. 800 and something down at the East, and almost 690, I think, up at the West. Of that, those 38,000 rounds, 287 were played by employees. Those rounds were only played when we had nobody playing golf. So if we hadn't sold those rounds to those employees, we would have lost revenue. We gained almost $15,000 in revenue just from the employee rounds. And you know what? It's as far as I'm concerned, as running the Knoll, if you guys choose to keep the employees, great. If you don't, that's fine. The ordinance is a township ordinance, it's your purview. The only reason I put it in, again, was to make it transparent. I didn't want anybody to be able to come back and say, why are these people playing golf without being members? It's not in the ordinance. Well, now it's in the ordinance. That's what we're asking you to do. If you choose to vote it down and not do it, that's okay with me. It's not gonna, $14,000 isn't gonna make or break the business we have going at the Knoll at this stage of the game. So, of our current membership, and this is true as of tonight, 47% of our new members at the West are residents. So 53%, more than half, are non-residents that choose to join the Knoll. Our membership classifications, I don't think there's a great deal of understanding, and that's why I choose to explain this. Membership at both courses, the categories break down to resident and non-resident. At the East course, it's only general public. There's no preordained tee times in advance or anything. It's first come, first serve. A resident member pays $50 fee, he gets a reduced green fee. A non-resident member pays a $150 fee, he gets the same reduced green fee. The general public comes in, they don't get the reduction. They pay the higher rate to play that golf course. At the West, it's the same deal, resident, non-resident. It's always open to the public. If we have an open tee time that isn't being used by a member of some kind, we'll sell it to anybody that walks in the door. And our rates in the rate ordinance reflect that. For instance, I think the non-resident rate during the week is on the order of $85 plus tax for the cart. For a general member, and this would be any class of member, it would be $53, I think, with tax on the cart. So, that's it. You got two classes. There's three categories at the West. At the East, there's only the two categories, resident, non-resident. At the West, we have three categories, and those all fall under Class A. So a Class A member can book his tee time 12 days in advance. They all get the same reduced green fee, every member. The membership classes are individual, resident, non-resident. You can see the difference in the rates. Family, and a family would include two members, a husband, a wife, and a child under 18 or a grandchild under 18. Those memberships are generally used on the weekends and the afternoons where, somebody wants to take their grandson out to play golf or he wants to go play with his wife. And then we have corporate. Now, the rates you see for corporate are per person. So a township corporation would pay us $1,030. A non-township business would pay us $2,030 per member. And it's a minimum of 2 members in a corporation. So one guy can't come in and say, I own the barber shop, I want a corporate rate. Doesn't happen. Our Class B members, they can book times at 7 days in advance, get the same reduced green fees, and it's only individuals, resident, non-resident. There's no additional classes. After 7 days, at 5 days, we open the membership up to the general public, or the tee times up to the general public. So that's when we'll put tee times up on Golf Now. People can call if we have a time available. They're more than welcome to pay. The general public pays $85, $86, $87. The Golf Now pays us $90. So those are the highest rates we charge for green fees. Employees, they have to reapply for their membership every single year. So we are not going to allow retirees, because people were coming in saying, I work for the town, and they were retired for 10 years. Not going to happen anymore. If a guy left the township in the middle of the year, and he comes back next year and says, I was an employee member, well, show me your ID. And then we will check to see if they actually are still employees before we allow them to have that privilege. They can book their times 4 days in advance. So they're last on the pecking order. You want to get the discount, you have to wait until it's offered to the members, the 2 membership classes, and the general public before they can play golf. So, my bottom statement there is that the green fee is the same. There are differences that you'll see in the ordinance on the green fees based on the day of the week. So weekdays are less expensive than weekends and holidays. The time of the day, if it's 3:30 in the afternoon, that's when we start twilight, it'll be a reduced rate. There also are rates for 9 holes that can be played after the late in the afternoon after twilight starts. We run 8-minute tee times at the West. Now, the East is a different animal, but the West, we run 8-minute tee times. That means we do 7.5 tee times per hour. You take that times an 8-hour day, that's like 400 tee times for the day. There's no way we'll ever sell 400 tee times. God bless, if we're that sold out, I'll be asking to build a new golf course. we probably average on busy days somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 to 220 rounds of golf. So in the afternoons and in the off times, those times are wasted and they don't get sold. If a time doesn't get sold, now that 8 minutes is 4 golfers. So, you know, if you're talking about 4 members, you're talking about a couple of $100 every 8 minutes that we sell at tea time. If we don't sell it, our cost that hour goes up. So the more tea times we sell incrementally, the lower our cost to operate the business is. So, now on into the fiscal analysis. If you go back to 2001, and I supplied you all with a spreadsheet that shows the numbers I had were sales for golf, what our catering revenue was. I didn't have cost numbers that go back beyond 2016. But if you looked at the sheet, we started out at roughly $336,000 a year in revenue from the caterer. That grew to $1.3 million in 2011. That's a 265% growth rate. From 2011 to 2021, and there is a graph I'll show you later on, that will show you the decline in the revenue from the caterer. Now that became, and when I was on the advisory committee, we didn't get a lot of these numbers. These numbers have really not been shared generally with any of us. They were pretty well held close to the vest. All we were told is that we're in trouble because the revenue from the catering was going down. The catering is subsidizing the golf at the Knoll. Those were statements that were made, and there are members on the advisory committee that are here can back that up. So, at any rate, in 2016, the golf generated $116,000 in profit. Overall, we saw a profit of $776,000 as a utility. It included a catering revenue of $660,000, which was, the decline had started back in 2011. In 2016, we were down to $660,000. In 2017, oh crap, I can't read that. In 2017, we realized a loss on golf of $56,717. Overall, the utility had a profit of $353,000, which included catering revenue of $410,000. So it went from $660 in 16 to $410 in 17. 2018 is when the management company came in. That's when Kemper Sports was hired. Golf realized a loss of $56,737. Overall, the utility had a profit of $353,000, which included catering revenue of $410,000. I'm sorry, I misspoke. 2018 is when Kemper started. 2018, golf lost $356,000. Utility had an overall loss of $149,000, which included a positive revenue from the caterer of $210,000. So you could see how the revenue from the caterer was dropping, and the losses with the mismanagement that was going on were pretty steep. In 2018, I'm sorry, can you hit my button for me? Please? Just anyone, any of the, no, the other way.
Try another 801.
One more. There you go. 2019, the golf lost $514,000. The utility showed an overall loss of $154,000 because we had revenue from catering of $360,000. The total loss to the utility, though, was $737,000 because $582,000 was moved out of our insurance allocations. So in the general fund, we have an insurance allocation that we pay based on a percentage. I don't know what it is, but that number generally runs in the $500,000 area. In the 2 years Kemper Sports was here, that bottom line went from 500 and some thousand dollars to 60, 63, $6,400 in one year, and $7,200 in the other year. So, 2020, that's when we hired that's when I came aboard. That's when we hired the golf staff to work for the township. In 2020, we realized a profit on golf alone of $724,000. Overall, we had a profit of $1,020,000, and that included $296,250 from the caterer. When you replaced, we actually replaced $537,000 into the general fund for our insurances. That meant our profit increase was $1.5 million in 2020. In 2021, we had no revenue from the caterer because we didn't have one. We generated $902,000 in profit on golf alone. We also paid $250,000 to the old caterer to buy out the equipment. The equipment that was there was shared. Some of it was owned by the township, some of it was owned by the caterer. It was a constant bone of contention. Who owns it? Who's got to fix it? Who's maintaining it? What happens if we get rid of the caterer? Do we have to go buy convection ovens and stuff like that? So in conversations with Fred, we chose to buy it out. Of that $250,000, $120,000 of it is a deposit that the caterer paid us with the initial contract. So really, for $130,000, we bought out the caterer. The reality is, that $250,000 came out of our proceeds in 2021. So that $902,000 should have been over $1 million. Now, if that doesn't prove anything, other than the fact that the golf does not need to be subsidized by anything. The golf makes money and stands on its own. We don't need the caterer to make our money. The caterer should strictly be considered an enhancement to our profitability. Now, where that money goes, hopefully, it's going to be reinvested back into the utility, so that we can keep improving the facilities, hopefully get a caterer that is making money, because if they're making money, we're going to make money. So, and you know what? Everybody says the pandemic has an awful lot to do with it. And that's true. It had a lot to do with our increase. It doesn't account for those numbers up there. We are gaining members that are coming to us from private clubs, Rockaway River, Greenbrook, private clubs that are assessing their members. They're paying $10,000 and $20,000 a year to join those clubs, and they're being assessed for greens. They have a food and beverage minimum that they have to pay every month. It gets very expensive. When a guy outside this area looks at paying us $1,800 or $2,000 for a membership, and he pays for his golf as he goes, and they see what we're planning for the improvements in the grill room, which is going to become a restaurant, they want to be here because we're giving them the same amenities you would get in a private club without the expense. It's the best deal in this state, believe me. So these two simply show you, these bar graphs, simply show you the golf revenues over the course of the last 20 years. The graph on the right is your catering revenue. So you can see how it peaks and it comes down. All right, in closing, I believe that this factually reports what is really going on up at the Knoll. You know, everybody likes to say the Knoll is a gem. It truly is. We're polishing it up. We get it finished, it really is going to be a gem. For many years, like I said, for many years, the word was the Knoll is subsidized by the catering. Believe me, that's no longer true. Whether I'm there or somebody else is there, this thing will continue because we now have processes and accountability in place. Some of the things that went on there in the past will never happen again unless somebody allows it to get out of hand. And as long as I'm there, I can guarantee you that's not going to happen. I'm just asking that the funds that we are generating in the future to be reinvested. You know, in the last couple of contracts with the caterer, we had clauses in there that said we were gonna do, I don't know, 12 million, 17 million dollars in improvements. We spent money on architects, we spent money on engineers, we never made the investment in improving the facilities. The caterer is a businessman. Any catering facility that you guys are familiar with, they redo their places once every 5 to 7 years. The ballrooms, new rugs, new whatever. We haven't done anything inside that knoll in 30 years, since it was built. The rugs have never been replaced. They smell. Caterer is gonna try and sell weddings in a venue like that. We have to make those kind of investments. Now, I'm not suggesting that we have to make 8, 10, 12 million dollars investments in there, because we don't. I think with investments of a couple of $100,000 in each place, raise the ceiling, replace the rugs, put in hard floors, which are easier to maintain. That's what you're talking about up there. I think the analysis that I'm showing you proves that, our financial performance at the, is the utility. It doesn't need subsidization. It's gonna need, the revenue from the catering is gonna enhance our profitability up there. So at that point, it's imperative. We gotta get the contract, in place for the caterer. Met with the mayor yesterday. We're working on that. We're trying to speed that up as much as we can because we're approaching the beginning of the season. And another season without having food and beverage could be a real disaster for us. We also are working very hard on getting finished with what the building department is requiring. And, prior to, the mayor coming in, we got no communication back from the building department. So we were just hanging, not knowing what they required, what they wanted to be able to finish the process of giving us the permits. Since the mayor came in, we have that communication. And we're down to one final, permit for hanging fire, signs and stuff like that, which was submitted to them today. So at this point, from what I've been told, there should be nothing holding up the building permit process. So with that, I thank you, and, any questions that you might have, I'm listening.
Thank you, Kevin. Let me just summarize, from a more global, some of those numbers we get lost. Can't remember all those numbers. Back in the early 1970s, when the township purchased the Knoll Country Club, Green Acres paid for half of the funds that were used to purchase the Knoll. Now, anytime the state gives you money, they always have strings attached. And the strings in this case was, since all of the Green Acres money comes from all of the taxpayers in New Jersey, you cannot bar anyone in New Jersey from playing at the Knoll, east or west. So anybody can come and play. Now, we have a pecking order. The A members at the west are paying the most, and they can reserve their tee times on the east or west 12 days before the tee time that they need, on either course. The B members who pay less, can now reserve their tee times that were not taken by the A's, and at the east and the west. Now, in general, anybody in the state of New Jersey can take up any other tee time that's not taken from the A's and the B's. But many decades ago, the township considered, well, our volunteers, whether it be the fire, the EMTs, the ambulance, R&R, or township employees, who work to improve our quality of life in Parsippany, should have a higher pecking order than everybody else in the state of New Jersey that does nothing for the town of Parsippany. So there was like a third category. We allowed the volunteers, and the employees, to reserve tee times 4 days before the tee time that they want. That's after the A's reserve theirs and the B reserve theirs. Then the volunteers and the employees 4 days before, can reserve open spots that are still there. And then after that, if there are still open spots, and there always are, anybody from the state of New Jersey can come in and play at the east or the west and fill in those. But we wanted to give a higher preference to volunteers and township employees over the general public in the state of New Jersey who don't contribute anything to our quality of life in Parsippany. Give them a higher grade. That's all we've been doing. Nobody's paid free. Everybody is paid all the time. There's no free giveaways. It's unfortunate that the one term that Kevin put in there that the volunteers and the employees, their membership fee is waived is not a good term. That misled some of the members on the council at that time, because it's not waived. Their membership is not waived, and all the state residents who want to play there, their membership is not waived either. They don't have to apply for membership.
20,000 rounds last year,
So,
general public.
yeah, and they pay a higher rate, but they can play.
Yes, sir.
We just wanted to give a little higher pecking order for our volunteers and our town employees over those others. That's all it was. That's all. When Kevin tried to memorialize what we've been doing for decades, many decades, it was just trying to memorialize what we've already been doing.
No, I'd also like to tell you that the articles that were printed and tapped to Parsippany, not one person made a phone call to myself or the administration to verify the facts before those articles were printed. There also was what I would consider to be confidential information that I supplied to Fred Carr on the 20th of January that were quoted in the paper or the internet on January 23rd. So how that information got tap into hands, I have no idea. I don't think it's right.
No, in fact, I received complaints. That memo included the names of town employees who were playing at the Knoll.
That's correct.
And
And
their
that's,
names-
you know what, excuse me, that's the accountability and the level of accountability that we created. I was asked for that information, and I think within, how long? 3 hours we had the information disseminated? And there were only 37 employee members, and of that 37, 17 of them never even played a round of golf. Only 20 people. And one guy, who was the golf coach at Parsippany High School, played 123 rounds. He's a teacher. He's the golf coach. He sometimes would play 2 rounds a day. He would come up as a single, and if we had a threesome going out, he'd fill in on that group. So that would have been a green fee that we would not have had, because the threesome would have been allowed to go out with only 3 golfers. So that's as simple as it was and as well-intended as it was. How it got distorted, why it got distorted, if it has to do with my wording in the, I apologize. That was not the intent. The only intent was to make them accountable and to get it on the record, get it into the ordinance, so that nobody could come back at me and say, why are these people playing golf without, that's why. And as I said before, it's your ordinance. If you want to keep it in there, fine. If you don't want to keep it in there, fine. You want to modify it, fine. We'll do whatever the ordinance says. I just wanted to codify it and make it transparent.
Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on with the agenda. We're down to Township Attorney.
Yeah, the only report I have, Council President, is that I'm getting a pretty good handle on all the issues in Parsippany right now. I have a follow-up meeting with my predecessor on Friday, and I think I'll have more detailed reports going forward.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Business Administrator,
No reports, sir.
Township Clerk,
No report at this time, thank you.
Township Committees, reports.
Yes, we'd like to welcome, our township would like to welcome a new business in town, Platter King. And we will have the Economic Development Committee will have a ribbon cutting and plaque presentation on Saturday, February the 5th at 11 o'clock. And we wish Platter King the very best of luck as a new Parsippany business in town. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else with a report?
Mr. Council President, I'll be meeting with the Environmental Advisory Committee on February 9th.
Okay, thank you.
Council President, I had two committee meetings, one with the library, and it's a good meeting. I learned a few things about what's going on. I know there's some HVAC problems that Mr. Carr is working with them on, and there's some other things that they mentioned regarding benefits that I'm sure they're going to reach out to the town and talk about. And in addition to that, I also met with the Board of Ed as a liaison, and I gave a small report based on our last council agenda, just informing them about some of the things happening in town, any roadways that were being worked on and things of that nature, so that they were informed, if they had to reroute any bus routes or anything like that. That went very well.
Okay, thank you. And if we're going to report meetings, I'm liaison to the Traffic Advisory Committee, and they will be meeting on March 17th, their first meeting since the pandemic at the library. Since the library closes at 8 o'clock, and we're meeting at 7, they're going to be very brief meetings. All right, engineering report, we'll read at our, I assume it's going to be the same in 2 weeks,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
Okay,
Council President.
we'll read it at our regular meeting. Bids to be taken. 22222, pump station number 4, gravity conversion project. 21022, rental of heavy equipment. And that's it. Now I'll entertain a motion to open the meeting to the public.
Motion.
Motion made by Mr.
Is there a
Musella.
second?
Yes, I do.
Who made the motion?
Councilman Parisi, I seconded it.
Okay. So motion made by Mr. Karifi, seconded by Mr. Musella. Roll call, Mr. Karifi,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
Yes,
Mr. Musella,
Yes.
Mr. Neglia,
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Floor is open to the public on any matter. You have 5 minutes to speak.
Hi, I just wanted to thank everybody for the,
Name and
I'm
address,
sorry,
please.
Steve Colantoni, 45 Farron Drive. Just wanted to talk on the golf thing real quick. I just want to thank Mike for thinking of volunteers. Anthony Cordasco is here, he's going to speak as well. For the employee membership, that the volunteers get in under. It allowed me this year or past year, to kind of get back into golf and spend some time with my kids. So I really appreciate it. So my only request will be is that if we're not going to, the ordinance is not going to get voted and the employees now have to switch to a Class A or a Class B membership, that we get put ahead of, on the top of the wait list. There is a wait list right now. So if we're not subject to the wait list, if we could do something like that. So if we have to start paying, to go up to a Class A or Class B membership, we're fine with that, or else I'm fine with that. Just if we could be put to the top of the wait list, that would be great. That's all.
Well, it's going to depend on the council vote, but
Yeah,
I don't think we're going to come to that.
okay.
I think most of the council members now realize that what we're doing for volunteers and employees is just giving them a better picking order than the general public.
Right.
And not requiring them to pay for A and B membership.
Right.
The other thing is, you can't pick the spots that A's and B's already
Right,
picked. It's
right.
whatever is left.
But I understand there's a fiscal part of it, and I understand that, so, my only request would be is if it doesn't go, then that's fine, if we could just, be waived off the waiting list, and therefore, as you point out, we're here to improve the quality of life within the town, and that's a nice little payback, not payback, but bad choice of words for it, but, just something for us to be, ahead of somebody else who doesn't live in town who wants to join as well, so, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anthony Cordasco, 29 Beechwood Avenue. Just to reiterate what Chief said, I agree 100%. We were just hoping that if this change did take effect, that we would be able to at least bypass the wait list and be able to actually still become members, rather than be put on a wait list or potentially have to go and join another club. If a large event happened in town, we were playing golf, Chief and I would both throw our clubs back in the bag, and we're going to go and jump on a truck and do what we need to do. If we're in Rockaway Township or if we're down shore, we're not going to be able to do that, right? So that also helps us help you by being here and being able to take part in the services that the town has to offer. So we really appreciate it. We wanted you just to consider that if you were to abolish that employee discount piece of it, Michael, I hope it doesn't happen, that we would at least be able to rise above the wait list and have at least the ability to pay for our own membership. I
Thank you.
appreciate your time. Thank you.
Anthony, oh, okay, perfect. Just sign it.
There we go.
Can I ask questions now or no? The volunteer list, you mentioned pecking order a few times, Mr. Chairman. Does that include citizen advisory
State your
boards?
name.
Oh, yeah, Nancy Snyder, 226 North Beverwick Road. Does that include citizen advisory committees? Does that include planning board? Does that include zoning board?
No, not citizen advisory.
They're volunteers? They're volunteers. So, this pecking order is insulting. Listen, I love our volunteers and I love our township employees. Businesses are shuttering. Families and kids are on food lines. We're emerging from a pandemic. This mayor has to deal with a blank load of 4 years of mismanagement, and we can't afford waiving fees. I voted for every one of you. And while I think it's unreasonable to hold everybody verbatim on the political rhetoric that you all give us in regards to advocating for taxpayers and, protecting the taxpayers, we cannot afford this. I found it interesting that the director of the Knoll tonight said that memberships at the Knoll are mostly non-residents. Yeah, I get it, because the majority of Parsippany residents can't afford a membership of their own, let alone allowing the municipality to codify a 50-year practice of basically misappropriating funds. If we could afford it, we
Those are your
would.
words, not ours.
Well, yeah, absolutely, it's my words. I'll stand by my words. And frankly, I think you're living in a bubble. What world is it sane to just waive fees? Now, you're saying nobody's getting
have
anything
not-
for free. Are
we
you
have
paying,
not
you're
waived.
part of the Knoll, aren't you? You're part of the Knoll. Do you pay an annual membership fee?
I do.
Okay, so as long as he's paying for one and others are not, and again, there's a pecking order, and not all volunteers are treated equally, as based on your testimony and the director's testimony. So, I find that highly insulting, and listen, I don't know why we're even wasting our time with this. He's got some serious fiscal issues that we really need to buckle down on. And even by the director's own testimony here, the years of bleeding money, get it. Gross historical mismanagement, get it. Moldy conditions, leaking infrastructure. And then let's not talk about the number of trees that are being culled back there, while residents are on a 165 to 180 person waiting list just to get a dead tree that puts their life, property, and health at risk of coming down during a major storm. But yet, the trees are coming down like wild over at the golf course there, both at west and east. So again, I really ask you to, consider this, not codifying this. I'm sorry, we do, we love the work that they do, but I find it really ironic that it's only a few chosen volunteers and not everybody who volunteers. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Nicholas Homiak, Lake Hiawatha. Not for anything, but make the note brief. I wonder what Irene and Sandy, because if it rains all the time, you could sing in the rain, but you can't golf. So I wonder, just things like that factor into some of these equations. But it is a good place, like I said, and I hope it gets better for everybody. It's a public utility. I'm here because, one of the jobs, no matter who the mayor, I believe, the most important job, I think, is to make sure his employees are doing the best job possible for the municipality. And in addition, anyone who enters this town to do any kind of work to respect the community. So we had these utility guys stringing cable. I guess they're from Optimum. Just take a look at that, and I gave Mr. Carr some, multiply that hundreds of times throughout the town. There weren't no bucket. They came down my street saying, how come this guy doesn't have a bucket? He's tossing it in the street, tossing it in the street. How was this issue resolved? Or in the past, JCP&L was in this town. They were dumping mercury light bulbs down by the knoll in the woods. So these contractors, subcontractors, whatever you want to call them, they get hired, they're organized labor force, they have no accountability, no discipline. And they're probably doing it all over, not just in Parsippany. But how is the issue resolved? How is Optimum going to make up for being a step up from a litter bug in this town, throwing their debris, cable, metal, plastic, all over the town? There's no excuse for something like that. They need to come here, maybe see the mayor before they start the work. And maybe the mayor and the town administrator should make sure that they have everything possible and get a basic instruction on how to conduct themselves when they're in someone else's community. What else? Oh yeah, I have a question. How much did we pay in 2021 for our tipping fees for our sanitation, for our garbage? Because I got my brain thinking about something about how there might be another unfairness toward people who generate less garbage and people who generate more garbage and don't recycle. Like, how much, what was our tipping fees, and were they offset in any way by source separation, anything from all the crap that we produce for recycling? Or was anybody ever fined in this town or anywhere anymore for not obeying the source separation rules? Because we have an inspector who should be, maybe we need a mayor to go like in an army jeep, go around the town. Yeah, be proactive, take a look at the town, because a lot of these things, when they say resolved, reported concern, the issue was resolved. It was resolved for that moment, but it's ongoing. And a lot of times the same places. Everything keeps reoccurring. But I'd like to know about the tipping fees, if they went up or anything, and how was this issue with these disrespectful contractors that whoever hired to come to this town or probably every other town to throw their crap all over the streets?
Okay, well, usually when you have utility companies or Optimum Line, Jersey Central Power and Light, they usually set up a meeting with the township, with the representatives from the township. Now, I wasn't the mayor, because this doesn't just happen within the first month.
I reported it with Mayor Soriano.
No, I'm not talking, yeah, okay, I'm just saying, that's what happens. They tell you what they're going to do, what days they're gonna be there, they give you the streets they're working on. They actually give you a list of all the streets. I don't have that list. I'll get that list. With regards to the tipping fees, we'll get you those numbers. And the other thing is, we'll talk to the recycling coordinator, and you can compare each year from the tonnage reports that you get from your MUA, which would be the Morris County MUA, and they will compile, and then you have to do your recycling report. When you do the recycling report, that's how you get your tonnage grant. So if our tonnage stays a certain level and stuff like that, you get your grants. I don't have those numbers yet. They usually won't come out until April, because I do the reports. I've done them before. So that's when I'll know when I can give you the exact numbers of tipping fees, exact number of recycling, if it's increased or decreased over the year. So, I don't know when the recycling report's due here.
Yeah, there's no hurry.
I know when I was a business administrator in the other towns, I did all the reports and they were due by a certain time. But because of COVID, everything was, extended out, so.
And Mayor Soriano, you know what made this contractor think tossing their trash all over? They were actually being escorted and in the presence of police officers. Now, are they in La La Land? Don't they notice that this is going on? Like,
well,
that's what I mean. It's become such a norm. The debris that's out there, it's like nobody cares anymore, and that's. Just,
the thing with that, and I'll speak to the chief about it and I'll have the business administrator speak to the chief. But if you notice, there wasn't a lot of Parsippany police officers manning it. It was out-of-town police officers, it was state police officers that were manning it. But I can get you those numbers. Now, with regards to giving me a Jeep, I appreciate it, but I don't need to have one. That being said, and I'll tell you this, if you don't know me by now, I do go out, I go around the town, I go at night, I go at 1 in the morning sometimes. I can't take you for a ride because it's a township vehicle, but that being said, certain things, I get where you're coming from, Nick. Parsippany is a great town, we want to keep it clean, and I'm committed to that.
Yeah, okay, all right, thank you.
Yep.
Nick, if I just may add, in defense of the officers, their primary function there is traffic control and the safety of people in the traffic. And if you notice, they're at each end of where the work is done. So you may have the guys are working, let's say, in the middle. The officers are on each end, directed traffic, right? So they're not in right up against where those guys are doing the work. And if they are throwing things like that, the officers are on each end. And again, their concern is traffic and the safety of pedestrians and motor vehicles, so.
I noticed right away, and the telltale was, where's the bucket? Because when you get debris like that, you put it in the bucket, so it took me like 1 minute to realize.
Right, oh, yeah, I mean, I totally understand.
Throwing it in the street.
Right. I got you.
All right.
Mayor, Mr. Homniak had a good point. Maybe we should revisit, our discussions with the, optimum contractors and require that they not just throw the debris in the street.
Yeah, we'll do that. Also, since I put those new wires up, my coverage is actually worse. I get no Wi-Fi at night.
Good evening. My name is Davey Wellens, 8 Jamaica Road. It's an honor to just say hello to the new council members. Congratulations to both of you. I've been in front of this council before in many capacities, but thing I say, I've been living in town 50 years. Very proud to be a Parsippany resident. You all have a lot to be proud of for everything we have going in this town. Our water utilities, everything going. I've been involved in two of the most fantastic places, I think. Number one, Craftsman Partners Foundation, and the other, the Knoll Utility. And I'm just happy that after being on the advisory council for a number of years, in having the lack of information available to us as advisory council people on the Gulf Committee, okay, and as a member of the community for so long, there was times that there was a little smoke and mirrors and a little deception opportunities going on with what was going on with that utility. I'm happy to hear with your support and with the new director of Gulf, those things are going away. And that should be a good feeling and given us a lot reason for additional pride. And from a standpoint of that facility, I think, if you don't know, it's ranked as one of the top golf courses in the state every year. And with the new greens, creepers, and everything else, and the management going on, it's a pleasure to play, all right? So it is a treasure. It's something you should be proud of, we're proud of. And I would just ask that all the council members and all the township employees echo and chirp how great it is and how proud they are to be part of it, and not do any backbiting and second guessing on some of the stuff going on. If we have questions, let's get them out there and keep it transparent so we don't have any more of that, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Davey.
I will sign the paper after I speak. Marilyn Marion, 12 Winding Way in Parsippany, and I'm here again on the cat issue, and I thank you, Mayor, for bringing it up, but I need some clarity on something. 6 months ago, when I came before you, the then township attorney said that a committee was going to be formed. Mr. DePiero, you were in charge of the committee. You even asked one of the outgoing council members, Janice, to be on that committee. Now, tonight, I just need clarity on this. You said something about this is a town thing and it can't be changed. Were you stringing me along for 6 months? That's the way it seemed to me, because there is a section in that ordinance that does say you could file a nuisance complaint, and you pushed that nuisance complaint on the municipal court, not on this council. So I filed through municipal court, and so far I have been in court 4 times over this issue. Again, on Thursday at 10 o'clock, I will be in court again with Judge Scalia to talk about a fine for these people. Now, the judge said, and I don't know if he did or not, I'm going to find this out Thursday morning, he was going to speak to these people that are feeding the cats, because he wants them done with. He did speak with them, excuse me. He was going to speak to animal control, because he feels it's animal control's position to clean up the mess that's there, because they allowed this to happen. The person, the officer, according to the ordinance, was supposed to be checking on that colony of cats and giving some sort of a report. Did anybody ever go back and check to see if she went there? Did any council member who's trying to help me do this? No, I got no help. So what is the clarity? Could the ordinance be changed? The one about going to the municipal court to file something, like I mentioned before, it was like putting a restraining order against somebody. It was embarrassing. I said that before. It's still embarrassing. I had no intention of standing here and talking again tonight, because I am in the court with this now. But after you said about we can't change it, explain to me what you meant. I just don't understand it.
TVNR is a long-term process. If we're going to do something else, then we have to have a different process, not TVNR.
No, absolutely. But that's what you said a committee was going to be formed for. I understand that. It's a process. The process in your ordinance says there is a nuisance complaint there. And this is what you do with the nuisance complaint. And this is what we did, because I wasn't getting help from anybody here. Wasn't getting help from animal control. Judge Scala could not believe that you people have not helped me. He said to them, why did you come here? Why are you in court over this? This is your township's problem. We said, we've been to the township over and over again. Well, where's their animal control? I don't know. Now, you are going to meet with the past township attorney. You could ask him. He's the one that brought it up. Let's change the ordinance. It's only one thing that should be changed, is the nuisance section that I told you before. It's 91-34. That's how you file a nuisance complaint, and that should be changed. Otherwise, they end up like a person like me who has to go to court, which I said before is totally embarrassing to me to bring these neighbors to court, but I can't put up with what's going on with these cats. I don't even know where they are now. You could still see them. There's cat prints all over, and what else now? Because of the snow, we can't tell. But the judge told these people to stop feeding them. Stop feeding them. They're not gonna die. They're feral cats, they're scavengers. These are the words out of Judge Scala. They're not gonna die, they're scavengers, he said. They will find someplace else. They will, maybe they will, I don't know. I don't care where they go, long as they're not in my neighborhood anymore. So your idea is, it's a town ordinance, it's the law of the town. But why did you lead us on that a committee was going to be formed and changed? That's my whole question. No clarity, no clarity. We were being strung along, and I think that's embarrassing. And you should be embarrassed over it. Be as embarrassed as I am, because you actually said it at this meeting. You actually said you were going to change that. Yes, it needed to be changed. Am I wrong in that? Am I wrong in saying that?
Well, I said we would form a committee and look at it.
No, the words were things had to be changed.
I'm still opposed to euphemizing cats. If we catch them, we've got to do something with them.
Yes, I agree. I'm not disagreeing with that. But you shouldn't have them in residential areas where cats are roaming all over, pooping all over everybody's lawn. You can't even cut your grass. And how did it go when it was first there? There were 10 cats, I understand. I didn't even know there was a colony 2 doors from me. I didn't even know that until it kept multiplying and multiplying and multiplying. Got up to 42 cats. I don't know what it is now. You know what it's like having 42 cats all over the place?
According to Heidi, it's 9 cats.
Heidi said in front of Mayor Soriano in his office in the beginning of July, because I had no idea how many cats there. He said to her, how many cats is she talking about? Because he was not happy that I went to him first, because I didn't want to come before. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. Went to him first, I need your help. He says, how many cats are there? She put her head down because she didn't want to answer. She looked up and she said, 42. In his office, she said that. That's how I know, that's where the figure 42 came from. That, not from me, I didn't go count the cats. That's all I knew, is there were an awful lot of cats around. So now you're still saying, can't be changed, can't be changed. So that's what you did, you strung us along, and I'm really upset about that. And I hope, Mayor, that we could do something about it. The judge, like I said, it's in the court's hands, actually. I will inform you as to what happens at our court hearing on Thursday. And the judge did say, and I don't know if he could do this, that he was going to tell the animal control that they have to clean that up, because it was their responsibility by having these people as caregivers. Is that right? I don't know. That's coming from a judge. What do I know about it? So I think it's totally unbelievable that I had to hear that, and it doesn't make me think very highly of what's going on when I hear some of the stuff sitting here in this town. And all of you who've known me for a long time, I have been a volunteer working in this town for 34 years. We support children in the school with scholarships and whatever, and you know that. I don't stand and I don't complain. I think it's wonderful when I see people like yourself who give of your time to help a town. But darn it, help it. Help the residents who can't do it themselves. That's my feeling. So now I know where that stands, and I'm sorry that it came to that, but that doesn't make me be very trustworthy of some of the people on the council.
Good evening. So tonight is a record. This is the third time I've been in front of this council in 32 years. So you have to be honored. I'm here on behalf of the Economic Development.
We need your name and
Frank Cahill, 588 Lakeshore Drive. I'm here on behalf of the Economic Development Advisory Committee. I'm requesting that the council review the current ordinance, which you're getting a copy of. There are 5 words in there that need to be changed. I'm requesting that it be changed to allow members of the business community to be potential members. Currently, it states that you're required to be a resident of Parsippany. Since Parsippany has many Fortune 500 companies and many real estate investment companies, it would be great to have input from these professional people. Also keeping in mind that you have to appoint the people before they become members of this committee. But I request that change be made. Thank you.
Who's going to appoint the members?
The council or the mayor always appoints them.
Right. So what you want to change that?
No, I want to just make it that we can have business people that don't have to be residents.
Well, I understood that. Yeah,
That's all.
business people who have businesses in the township.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We discussed this, and I agree with Mr. Cahill with regards to that. We really should run our committee like Hanover Township does, and I met with them prior, and I spoke to Mr. Cahill about it, because we are the third largest corporate center in the state of New Jersey, and just due to COVID and all the things that have happened in the past, we got to find ways to bring businesses back in. We have some ideas, but I think if we put professional, those individuals that are even realtors, commercial realtors, on the committee, that we can make it enhance our accessibility more.
Thank you.
And I'm going to ask for an increase in funding for the committee as well.
Well, that would help. Thank you very much. Mr. Lavery, how difficult will this be?
Not difficult at all.
All right.
Just be an ordinance that, with that change, and then what we do is just I'll show the addition in the ordinance so it's clear to see, and, we can have that ready for you for the next meeting.
Do we want to classify the types of members? Because you're saying business members. Do we want to classify, like, 2 shall be from businesses within Parsippany, 3 shall be township residents? Do we want to do that? This way it's not just, it doesn't become all business? I'm just...
No.
No?
No. This should be a simple change. Members shall be township residents or township businesses, owners of township
Okay,
businesses.
done.
That's all. Add 3 words and you're done.
Yeah, I just jotted down.
I won't even charge you, Mr. Lavery.
Okay. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. What else we got? Anybody else?
Anyone else wish to speak?
I make a motion that we close public hearing.
Second. Motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call, Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Floor is closed.
Okay, the only other item we have on the agenda, you can review the second readings and the ordinances. We have on the last page, approval of payroll and bills list. Mrs. Grignani?
CFO Juan Uribe recommends authorization for payment. 1, authorize payment of the 2/4/22 regular payroll estimated at $1,750,000. 2, payment of bills from voucher list 2/1/22 through 2/3/22, estimate totaling $717,004.75. Motion to approve by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call, Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And the ultimate motion?
Motion to close.
Second.
The motion to adjourn by Ms. Grignani.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to
Excuse me.
adjourn by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call, Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
We're adjourned. Have a good night.